That was the dominant performance needed to close out non-con play.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, December 22nd, 2025. Welcome into this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You've joined me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network in the entirety of the world. Thanks for making this your first listen or watch after the game. And special shout out to all our everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course our insiders as well. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Speaking of NFL, I have literally no clue what's going on in the Colts 49ers game, and I needed Jonathan Taylor to score 19 points tonight to win my fantasy championship. So I guess I'm going to have to check that out later. Somebody let me know if I'm going to win or not. Carolina. Oh my goodness. I just dropped my baseball. I'm so excited. Tar Heels win this game 99-51 over ECU. Run their record to 12-1 on the season. It is the first time since 08-09 that the Tar Heels have had one or fewer losses in non-con play, so like a decade and a half since Carolina has done this well. We'll obviously talk more about the history of that at a later time. Ken Palm, Carolina moves up one spot all the way up to 21. Offense is 38th in the nation, defense 21st. So this is not a therapy session in any way. Au contraire, mon frere, this here be a party. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Nintendo Nerd says, as a Colts fan, I don't even want to share the score. So I think that probably means things are probably not good for me. Oh, well. I've literally never won my fantasy championship. Always the groomsman, never the groom. Such is my life. All right, you guys, here we go. Let's get right into it. This is what we do if you're brand new on our live postcasts. We talk about the game. We'll go big picture. We'll talk about some stats things. We'll take your comments over on the side as well and see what you guys thought about this game and performance and everything. This was the dominant performance that Carolina needed to close out the non-conference portion of the schedule. And you might look at me and say, Isaac, you dork. Of course Carolina was going to kill ECU. They're not good. But here's the thing. You know it as well as I do. Think about USC Upstate a couple Saturdays ago. Carolina struggled to dominate and pull away in that basketball game. ETSU last week. Same kind of thing. I mean, Carolina won both of those games by double digits, but it was not this. And so I don't care what level of opponent it is. You're about to play. Carolina coming into this game is playing a dude in Riley who can absolutely go off at a moment's notice, like all of that. And so what Carolina needed to do, I literally said on today's show, Carolina has to close out non-conference play with a statement. No more of this messing around with your food. Get in, dominate from tip to final horn, and that's what the Tar Heels did. Because another part of it was not just, can you dominate an inferior opponent for 40 minutes, but also, look, I know Ohio State is not Duke, and Carolina, it was not, like one of the top teams in the nation in terms of like top 5, top 10, but that was a crazy emotional win. You just got Seth Trimble back, and you turn around about 48 hours later and have to do this, yawn, and then we get to go on Christmas break after this game because we don't play again till next Tuesday. All that said, there was plenty of opportunity for the Tar Heels to sleepwalk their way through this game. You would hope they didn't, but you could understand and see how that could have been a possible scenario given everything I just said. But never once in this game. Like there was a 6-0 run in the first half that I was like, oh boy, that's pretty rough. That was the worst thing that happened in this game was that 6-0 run for ECU. And that's how you know it was a domination. And here's the other thing. They did it in the first half. And the question I asked at halftime was, all right, that was fantastic. But now, do you care enough to keep your foot on the floor the entirety of the second half as well. Can they keep it going? Can Carolina stay that level of locked in, even against an ECU team that they were killing at halftime? And that's where narrator said they sure could, right? Like, oh my goodness. One of the things I've been keeping track of this season, you know, those of you who know I keep a bunch of stats, is how Carolina scores in the first half, in the second half, but also each of the 4 10-minute quarters of the game. I know the men don't play quarters, but you can divide it into 4 10-minute quarters. Never before this season had Carolina scored at least 20 points in all 4 quarters. In this one, 23 points in the first quarter, 26 in the second quarter, 23 in the third quarter, and closed it out with 27 in the fourth quarter. That's what I'm talking about, man. That is domination for 40 full minutes of a basketball game and what you needed from the Tar Heels. And a big part of the reason why, there's a lot of reasons why, but I got to start with, yes, all the Seth Trimble, all the front court, but I got to start with Carolina's defense because my word, you guys, it is so locked in and so legit. One of the things I posited is ECU is not a good team, and the worst part of it is their offense. So I had said coming into this game, Carolina could legit hold them to under 50, and it was so close. I mean, so close. Just one. ECU made 2 threes in this game, and one of them was like in the last minute that got them to 49, and then they got 2 free throws with like 15 seconds left to get them above 50. But 51 points. You're holding a D1 school in the American Conference. It's not like it's a low major conference. The American Conference is one of the like top 10 conferences in the country. And you hold ECU to 51 points. Carolina's previous low this year was NC Central 53. Carolina just now bested that, and they have held a bunch of opponents. I can actually tell you in real time how many they've held under 60 this season. Opponents 1, 2, 3. This is now the 4th game Carolina has held their opponent under 60 points. I believe this is the 5th straight game holding an opponent under 40% field goal percentage for a game. That is absolutely crazy. For the game, ECU shot 19 of 73 from the field, 26%. They were 2 of 22 from 3, which is 9.1%. And you know, the stat we've been talking about so much this season is Carolina, their 2-point defense, because of all that length and athleticism inside, all the great communication, all the great movement, all the great switching that Carolina does. Their 2-point defense is 2nd in the nation in terms of percentage. It stayed there, but they held Carolina was like 41% on 2-point field goal percentage defense. They held ECU to 33% on 2s. Do you realize how insane that is? And that was even with homeboy, what's his name, went. Good grief. I was more impressed with him than Riley. Amujuru. Yeah, dude, holy smokes. I really liked what he brought to the table. 8 of 11 from the field, 21 points. Even with him doing that, ECU was still 17 of 51 on 2s. So Carolina, after that update, now holds steady, 2nd in the nation. Their field goal percentage defense on 2s is 40.5%, and they now move to number 1 in the nation in effective field goal percentage defense. You guys, again, we've been talking about it. Carolina needs to make their calling card defense. They did exactly that. And then if you get to just 75 points, you're going to win almost every basketball game you play. And of course, Carolina blew past that in this game. We talked about Jordan Riley. He comes into this game averaging 21.7 points. And the question was, nobody else from ECU is going to beat you. So can you shut down or at least lower what Jordan Riley is able to do? Carolina was able to hold him essentially to half of his season total. He got 11 points and he averages just shy of 22. And again, who was guarding him to start the game? Seth Trimble. Back-to-back games, you have Trimble back, gets the assignment on Bruce Thornton, gets the assignment on Jordan Riley, and just bothers the stew out of him. Riley's starts 0 of 7 from the field. His first points or bucket came with 10:04 left in the first half. At halftime, he was 2 of 13, 4 points. In the second half, he was 2 of 11, 7 points. So for the game, he scored 11 points, but he needed 24 shots to get there, you guys. He was 4 of 24. That is just insane what Carolina did to him. And it's not just Seth. because of Carolina's switchability, multiple defenders getting on this guy and just wreaking havoc on him. Like Jonathan Powell's defense has been so impressive to me. Caleb Wilson was on him. All sorts of guys absolutely dominating with the defense and how they held Jordan Riley in check. Speaking of Caleb Wilson, he handshake emoji with Phil Ford became just the second Tar Heel freshman ever to do something. We'll talk about the front court. We'll talk about Seth Trimble and much more, all coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you get to react to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as that action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And live betting, honestly, is at its best when the game starts to shift. Maybe it's a receiver gets hot. There's a big turnover that just changes the momentum of the game. And FanDuel lets you jump into those moments. You can bet like next touchdown score or what the result of this drive is going to be. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. Carolina was favored by 27.5 in this game. And I said, baby, you better believe Carolina is going to cover. And they almost like doubled that up. How crazy they blasted ECU in this one. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action as well this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, everybody, pulling up the box score as we continue on for those of you watching in real time. Also, I want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch and making Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Also, we have a brand new program at Locked On called the Everydayers Club. I know so many of you are locked into the show every day because you let me know about it. And man, I love it. It like in a season of Christmas week here, it just all the more reflection on how grateful I am for that. But if that's you, if you're an everydayer, check out our brand new Everydayers Club. There's 2 different tiers you can join in on. It's a great opportunity to lock in more with the program. All right. Caleb Wilson, Henry Veesaar. I don't know how I pray to everything in the world that I do not become just blasé, commonplace, ho-hum, whatever, at the level at which these guys deliver game in and game out. Not just because they continue to be that consistent, but especially overlaid with what Carolina was, or rather wasn't, in the front court last year. Here we go again, where both of these guys get double doubles. And I don't know how many times I keep saying it. There is going to be a game when both of them get 20 and 10 double doubles. We fell 4 Henry Veesaar points shy of it this game. And of course, if it was the type of game where they both needed to play the whole game, it probably would have happened. But Caleb Wilson, I actually put it in the notes. I was like, we're not going to see him again. Wilson checked out around 7.5, Veesaar around 6.5. Had Henry stuck around and played more, he definitely would have gotten to 12 and 10. But keep that in mind. They do all this while not even playing the vast majority of minutes that they typically would. Caleb Wilson finishes with 21 points, 12 rebounds on 7-11 field goals, 4 blocks, all in the first half, and 3 steals. Obviously, the bugaboos at the free throw line. We'll talk about the free throw line in a second. But man, like, let's not let that waylay us from celebrating the consistent dominance at which Caleb Wilson operates. And to put some stats behind that, this is now his 5th straight game scoring in 20 points or more. He becomes just the second Tar Heel ever to score 20 or more points in 5 straight games. The only other one to do it is, some guy named Phil Ford. You guys, what on earth are we even talking about here? It's crazy, crazy stuff. This is Caleb's, how many 2010 double doubles does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 6th 2010 double-double. And in that stretch of 5 20-point games, 4 of those 5 have been double-doubles. I mean, you guys, it's absolute insanity. And if that's not enough, Henry Veesaar is out here going 16 points, 10 boards, 6 of 9 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. That's a career high from him. You guys, what he does inside and outside and all of that is mesmerizing. I mean, it truly is. The compliment that these two guys are to one another, it never ceases to amaze me. And I hope that we really, really, really keep track of that always. And I want to use that Henry stretch capability to transition into talking about Seth, because that's the next thing. You wonder, hey, Seth had this great game in his first game back. How will he do in game 2? Can he step up and bring it again? Well, Seth in this game finishes not the 17 points of the other day, but Seth Trimble does have 12 points on 5 of 12 shooting, 1 of 3 from beyond the arc, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds. Here you go. 5 assists and 1 turnover. That is, there's just so much that it's not just his individual defense. It's not just his transition. It's not just his athleticism and his rebounding. It's his playmaking. It's his leadership on the floor. 5 assists, just 1 turnover in 26 minutes, plus 28 for Seth. I mean, you guys. And when you think about, I've been talking about Seth Trimble re-unlocks Carolina to allow them to be the team that they can be, to be potentially as elite as we think they can be. Part of that is when you have somebody like a Henry Veesaar that can step out and knock down 4 or 5, you saw how much defensive attention ECU had to pay to Henry beyond the arc. So he can pump fake whatever it is. And what does that do? That now opens all sorts of driving lanes for Carolina's best driver, who, well, Luka Bogavatz, by the way, can get to the rim himself, but Seth Trimble, man, can do it at will. And some of the drives, some of his ability, that baseline drive, Euro step, and just drop it. Oh my goodness. You guys, how far did he leap horizontally, laterally on that Euro? I mean, my goodness, Seth Trimble. And doing all that, oh, by the way, while shutting down Jordan Riley. Doing that, oh, by the way, while leading the attack. And it's almost like every other Tar Heel over the last 2 games has finally realized, like, oh, yeah, I forgot that we can suddenly have fast break. They didn't get to, I broke down the numbers with Seth coming back. In the 2 games with him before his injury, Carolina was averaging, what did I say? It was like 20 fast break points a game. 22% of their total points were coming from fast break. In the games without him, they were getting just 9 fast break points. They got 10 on Saturday, fine, whatever, 8 in the first half. Tonight, 17 fast break points. That's what Carolina needs to be, because in the half-court offense, Carolina's sometimes struggled this season offensively. But if they can get out and go, oh, baby, watch out. Speaking of Luka Bogavatz, nice bounce back for him. One of the things I was watching was Kyan Evans and Luka Bogavatz both had been rendered a little bit, in Saturday's game where they did not play many minutes. Even Jaren Stevenson, even though he was coming off the bench, was 4th in minutes played. Derek Dixon was 5th in minutes played. And in this one, similar for Kyan Evans, only 17 minutes, only 3 points. It was that really nice 3, but didn't do a ton statistically, although he helped lead the game well. He was plus 19. But how about this? What a bounce back for Bogey. Luka Bogavatz, team high plus, actually, check that. Tied with Jonathan Powell for a team high plus 30. How about it, JP? I love to see it. But Luka, 15 points on 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, had a 3 early second half, 4 of 5 at the free throw line, 4 boards, 2 assists, just 1 turnover in 24 minutes. We talked about it today. Carolina, because of how good and consistent the defense is and how consistent Wilson and Veesaar's offense is, if they can have a consistent third scorer, they're going to be set. And what's nice is, I think now the combination of Seth Trimble and Luka Bogavatz can both be nightly double-digit scorers. So you might actually not just have a third consistent scorer, but now 4 between Wilson, Veesaar, Trimble, and Bogavatz. And then you get, obviously, in a game like this where you're emptying the bench, you're going to get a ton, but 32 bench points in this game, essentially a third of your points all come from the bench. I mean, it's really encouraging to see that, but really glad for Bogey to get that bounce back in this game. That is well done. Oh, Carolina has struggled with threes and freeze. One of those went well tonight. One of those did not. Let's go good news first, shall we? Carolina, season high 48% from beyond the arc, 12 of 25. Obviously led by Henry Veesaar's 4 of 5. But 8 different Tar Heels made at least 1 3 in this game. 48%, you guys. I think the sample size of the season tells us that is the exception, not the rule. But as a team, Carolina is shooting. Let me see what it's at now after this game. 33.6%, just slightly moving up. If Carolina can keep, like, again, it doesn't have to be 44%, although I would love it. But if Carolina could just get to 35 to 37% as a team, and that's not crazy, they can absolutely do that. And again, I think the gravity that Seth introduces along with the front court is going to truly help that. And you see guys start coming along, right? Like Jonathan Powell just feels like he's getting more and more and more comfortable. Jaden Young has now hit a 3-pointer in 4 straight games. And when you're just getting like even that little bit of a contribution from the bench in that regard, in that way, that's great. Now, on the flip side of that, free throws are officially an issue now. Carolina goes 19 of 30 at the free throw line. And, for all the like, oh, why didn't Carolina get biscuits? Why didn't Coach Davis let them go for 100 on that last possession? Well, that's not sportsmanlike. You shouldn't do that. But you know what? You look at those 11 missed free throws, and I tell you what, you made just one of those, and we're not even having to worry about it because you're already at 100. Carolina must shoot better when it's free throws on the line. They, as a team now, are 68% on the season. That is 280th in the nation. This is one of the bugaboos keeping Carolina from being as elite as they possibly could be. They need to step it up here. And unfortunately in this game, Caleb Wilson was the biggest culprit in it, going 7 of 13 at the free throw line. You love that he gets there so much, but he needs to convert at a higher level. And of course, look, he's going to be his biggest critic in that regard, because he's so hard on himself. He's so competitive. And I get that, but it's got to ultimately be better. Several more things to say. We'll get to that probably. What we're going to do for the Tuesday show is I'm actually going to go live Tuesday morning. So we'll hit that there. Talk some about rebounding and about Carolina defending without fouling, which they did a great job. But one other, a couple big picture things I want to mention, and then we'll take a break and get to your comments. For the second time in the last 3 games, both of which were against buy games, the ETSU game last week and now this ECU game, Carolina has played multiple possessions of 2-3 zone in the second half. We saw it tonight around the 12-minute mark. I believe there were only 2 total possessions of zone, but there was a bunch in the ETSU game. And I'll say this: you don't intentionally go to those things in moments where you've put a game away. Like, you don't do that for nothing. It's not just throwaway. You don't just, hey, you know what? Let's try a couple possessions of zone. That tells me that Hubert Davis is either A, preparing that to use with some level of regularity, B, preparing to use it in some Dean Smith sort of ways where we might throw a wrinkle of a different defensive look at you from time to time. And that honestly might be because Carolina is already operating so high level defensively that he's like, all right, let's throw this wrinkle in. Or C, just saving it, like working on it, practicing it for a rainy day in which Carolina might need to utilize it for some reason or another, right? So again, ultimately though, Carolina ain't doing that for nothing. There's purpose and intentionality behind using that zone. The other thing I just want to, celebrate is multiple walk-ons having the opportunity to score. Evan Smith missing a shot, getting his own rebound, little putback in the lane. Ivan Matlekovich getting a nice post move and finishing in the lane. And then Elijah Davis just kind of finding a ball. Like, all right, let's put it up. Canning a 3, which was, I believe, Carolina's last 3 points of the game. Really cool to see that. And now the thing is, Carolina gets a whole week off before Florida State comes to town next Tuesday, December 30th, not New Year's Eve, to tip off ACC play. FSU not very great this year, so a nice opportunity to hopefully ease into ACC play a little bit, but you don't want to take that lightly. Carolina will get a little bit of a break, come back, and get ready for the Noles. So, wow, non-conference play in the books. How are we already here? But even more importantly, Carolina 12-1. In my preseason predictions, I said 11-2 or 12-1, with that loss or 2 losses coming to some combination of Kansas, Michigan State, Kentucky. That's exactly what happened. Obviously, you would love to have won that Michigan State game and be one of what would be 7 undefeated teams remaining in the country right now. Had Seth Trimble been healthy, maybe it happens. But he wasn't. Carolina lost a lead, and they lost that game. but they've done more than what you hoped for to put themselves in a great position to not just make the NCAA tournament, but to be a top 4, top 3 kind of seed, and maybe even better depending on how ACC play goes. And that's great news. All right, we'll get to your comments and questions coming up on the other side in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time. Y'all, there's nothing like college football and college basketball season. For college football, man, it's tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. There's the energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that can sometimes be harder and more frustrating than the game itself. You used to have to deal with long queues and logins and prices jumping on you at checkout. That was dumb and silly, and that's why there's Game Time, which gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college basketball and football tickets in just a few taps. I mentioned that FSU game. That's the next one coming up. Go check out Carolina's first ACC game of the season. See how Carolina can just jumpstart into conference play. I also love that the Game Time app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying in just a few minutes. And I love their zone deals, right? Basically, you pick the section you want to sit in. Game Time picks the tickets for you, the actual seats, and then you save even more money. So take the guesswork out of buying college football and basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, we're going to leave the box score up as we get into all of your questions and comments. Night Say Knee, what is up? Says, you know how we know it was a good night? We got Brown and High on the floor at the same time. That's absolutely right. And it's also a great moment to remember that we said this today. I know a lot of people wish it was Luka Bogavatz going to the bench instead of Jaren Stevenson, but tonight was a great reminder for multiple reasons of why it's not. Bounce back from Bogey. He is bringing offensive capability that Jaren just doesn't have. And more often than not, what he gives you offensively is going to be more than Jaren. But the other thing, and perhaps the more important thing, is that Carolina's biggest glaring hole personnel-wise is backup front court minutes, specifically at the 5. Now, with Jaren coming off the bench, he is that guy. And he's a 4 or 5, unlike what you're going to see with a lot of teams. And I know he's not a natural 5. He's a natural 4, maybe /3. More of a 4-3, I would say, than a 3-4. But whatever. Doing that allows him to be the big rather than Zayden High or James Brown. And I guess I should flip that because James Brown had supplanted Zayden High for those first big off the bench minutes as of late. But man, this just opens things differently where now you got a tight 8-man rotation, bringing in some Jaden Young when you need to for that 9th guy. Isaiah Dennis had some nice moments tonight. You know, one of the things I had talked about was, hey, this is your last opportunity to audition for Coach Davis to show, hey, I deserve some minutes in conference play. Isaiah Dennis delivered on that a little bit tonight. Saw him playing with his finger. Hopefully it's okay. That's what he had surgery on. But those other bigs, from High to Brown to Matt Lekovich, you're hopefully only seeing in a moment where, knock on wood, there's some injury or multiple bigs in foul trouble, which they've been able to mostly stay away from, really important. And so, yes, Night Say Knee, really, really good stuff. Michael Gerbitz, what's up, says, I loved the ball movement tonight in Henry We Trust from the Arc. Yes, the assist percentage was ever so slightly lower. It had been 3 straight games, 66% or higher. Tonight, Carolina, that it's a good season assist percentage wise. If I'm about to complain about this, Carolina 20 assists on 34 made back. I'm not complaining about it, but Carolina 58.8% on assist percentage, which the fact that I'm calling that low is incredible. 20 assists in this game, again, led by Seth Trimble's 5. JP, Jonathan Powell, had 4 assists and just 1 turnover. One of the things that is really beneficial for Carolina is there's been so many teams that double Henry and or Caleb. And that I wish this 3-pointer had gone down. Henry got doubled and he threw this kind of, it was controlled, but it looked crazy. Over the head, behind his head, kind of passed to JP in the corner, missed the 3, but my goodness, the way that Carolina is able to move the ball when those bigs get doubled. There was another one. I forget what shot it ended. I think it was JP in the other corner, right in front of the ECU bench off of Henry. And so Carolina's willingness and capability to move the ball is something special, man. And I truly hope it carries on and continues all season long. And man, I am encouraged by that. Derek Tyson says, I loved how the first bucket of the game was from a Luka drive and how the team in general was attacking the paint. Yes. One of the things that was neat is we've seen such a high percentage of Carolina's shot attempts come from three. They recognized early on in this game, like, hey, let's get downhill and score. And they weren't relying on the three early. Second half, once things got out of hand, they started taking a few more. But man, that is where Carolina needs to be, is let's get downhill, let's attack. And I hope we see more of that. Maybe that's one of the other good things about Seth being back, where that they're going to do more of that. But it started with Luka Bogavatz, who had Carolina's first 4 points. And if I remember correctly, like 7 of the first 21 or so points. Man, I'm so encouraged by that. But yes, that it came from attack mode. Love to see that from Carolina. Great question here from Derek Tyson. I actually want to think more about it. I'm going to answer it right now, but I'm going to ask it to Coach Rob. I can't remember which show. Coach Rob will be on later in the week, as will Josh Marlowe, by the way. But I want to ask Coach Rob this question from Derek Tyson. Aside from free throw shooting, what's a thing or two you would like to see improve in conference play? Yes, free throw shooting. And tonight aside, 3-point shooting and less reliance on 3-point shooting, as we were just talking about with attack mode. So I will say 3-point shooting would be another one. And then secondly, Kyan Evans learning his role better. I do think that it's going to come. I just think it's he and maybe the team haven't fully settled into who he is going to be for this team. It's in there, and he's wildly capable. But now maybe with Seth back, with Jonathan Powell doing a little more playmaking, maybe Kyan can just start to get some more shots. Maybe he can get to the line more, some of those kind of things. But that would be my other thing, Derek. And again, I'll ask Coach about this as well. And there's a question. Actually, this is from Derek as well. Who has the record for dunks by a freshman for us? I don't know, because that's not necessarily a stat that's been well kept through the years. Like, this is the first year I've kept some stats, and so it's hard to say. But I will tell you, in this game, 5 more dunks from Caleb Wilson. All the stats are one shy on Caleb's dunks. They will tell you he's got 41. He actually has 42. There was a dunk in one of the early games of the season where the play-by-play credited it as like a layup or a tap in, and it was like not even close, like a ferocious dunk. And so he's got 42. Henry has 29. It's insane what these guys continue to do and how their teammates get them the ball and the opportunity to do that. So that's some really good stuff. So lots more to get to. I'm curious if anybody said anything about the Colts score and how I'm probably not doing well. But anyway. Oh, Todd Pegram says, Isaac, I need your help. I'm trying to find the Tar Heel record for most assists in a season for the team. Whatever the record is, I believe this team can break it. Todd, I can't give you that in real time right now, but it's certainly something I could have for tomorrow's show when we do the live show on Tuesday morning. And I'm assuming, and you can ask this later in the comments and I'll find it. But if you're asking assists per game or like total assists, because obviously total assists is dependent upon how many total games they play. So there's a lot with that there. Oh, I see Michael Riggs says that Jonathan Taylor has 39 yards and no touchdowns. It's late third quarter. That means that once again, I'm going to lose my fantasy championship. You guys, my fantasy life is so messed up. Oh, well. We'll end on this note because this is a good one. Knight Saini says, my favorite thing so far is how guys keep playing hard, even if their shots aren't falling or if they aren't getting the minutes. Haven't seen that in a while. There with this team is a camaraderie that they have. Like everyone is very bought in with this team. It's clear, it's obvious. Jaron mentioned it on Saturday after the game, like, hey, I don't care that I have to go to the bench because I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help this team win basketball games. And of course, he was still fourth in minutes, so he played starters minutes. And yeah, like even in a game that was an absolute blowout, Carolina, like the second unit comes in and they're defending just as hard and just as capably as the starters. And so there was so much encouraging to me in that regard. So that's a great point, Night Say Knee, that they're just so bought in. And with Coach Davis legit using 8, sometimes 9-ish guys, they know I can go all out and then, you know, give the fist so that I can come out and then check back in when I'm ready. And it's so encouraging, man. And there's guys like the bench is starting to step up more. Like Jonathan Powell and Derek Dixon just continue to come along. Like Derek Dixon only had 2 points in this game. Jonathan Powell had 7. It's like, it doesn't matter. Their impact is so much greater. As I said, Jonathan Powell tied for the team lead in plus minus at plus 30. So I'm encouraged by that. Night Say Knee. Thank you for that. Now, it is Christmas week, so you might be wondering like what's going to happen. We will have shows every day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I will pre-record the Friday show because, you know, usually I record a day ahead, so that would be Christmas Day. So I'm going to record ahead of that, but there will be a show on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, and on Boxing Day on Friday. I'll be traveling to my parents' house for Christmas, but I'm going to be recording from there. So we'll have the Monday show as well. We'll be driving back on Tuesday. So I will be with you live after the Florida State game on Tuesday night, right back here in my home studio. So great stuff there as well. I want to thank all of you for locking in with this post game. It's so fun. What a dominant win by the Tar Heels. That's exactly what they needed. If you have not yet subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second of the show. Oh, Bobby Petrino. We haven't talked about that. Holy smokes. The offense is going to be better next year. I'll tell you that right now. If you haven't joined the Everydayers Club, it's brand new. That link is in the show notes, as is the link for the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Cannot wait to talk to you live tomorrow morning. But until then, peace.